Today we're going to paint an ornament, and this lesson is about watching the palette. Most of the paint time we're going to be looking at the palette. This is about how to determine what color something is when you have no idea what color it is. So let's get started. All right, this video is going to be about color mixing. So in a minute, we're going to look at the palette and not be looking at the easel at all. But I wanted to show how to set it up so far. I'm going to be painting the gold ball at the top of the picture. But you can see it's not yellow and it's not gold. So this is about how you figure out what color something is when you have absolutely no idea what color it is. Now this isn't about being matchy-matchy painter. I'm not going to match color, but I'm going to see if I can match value and sort of a yellowy goldness. The first thing I do is I make the background neutral. Of course it's white, but then I use cerulean blue, Naples yellow, and permanent rose to create a little shadow underneath the ball. And I've used watered down Naples yellow in the places that I know I want to keep white. Those are the brightest highlights that you see there. I'm putting that there so I don't drive over it. Now I start mixing. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And I used Hansa yellow and some quinacridone sienna, and that quickly gave me an orange. And I matched that to the ball. I said, is that the color? I said, no, that's not the color. I can't use yellow because it's not yellow, and also because it's darker than any yellow that I have. So unless I go into yellow ochre, which is going to dull everything down, I've got to figure out how to create the color that that ball is. So that's what we're going to look at right now. How do I solve that problem? So we're going to switch over to the palette and take a look. All right, so here's the palette. So I mixed up that orange from Hansa yellow and from quinacridone sienna, but it was too orange. I needed to do something. I needed to do something that would both make a darker value, but somehow stay within the range of what was similar to the picture. So here's Hansa yellow going in, and there's quinacridone sienna, more Hansa yellow. I'm trying to thicken things up here, and I just would have made a test dab, and that was that orange test dab. I thought, nope, nope, it's not orange. That is not an orange globe. So it would have been very different if I was doing a peach, for example, but I'm not. I'm doing something that's gold. So I'm adding some permanent green to my mix. There we go. See how that tipped it? It tipped it into being something darker and also closer to what the photograph looked like. I'm not matching the photograph, but I want to come somewhat close. Now, if I had gone into, if I had gone into the browns or yellow ochre, which you can see on the palette there, everything would have been very dull. And I don't want it to be dull. I want it to be saturated color. And so I make my first test dab next to that orange one. And I'm looking to compare, is that pretty close to what the picture is? And I thought, yeah, it is. All right, then go back and make some more. Hansa yellow, some of that permanent green, and some more of that quinacridone sienna. There we go. You can see how much brighter that is than the yellow ochre, which is also on the palette. I don't like to go into yellow ochre if I don't have to because it just dulls everything down so much. Now I make a test dab again. And I want to see how that compares to the orange. All right, let's see. I'll probably bring the value finder up in a second. We'll take a look. I think it's going to be, oh, I didn't bring the value finder up. All right, well, I should have. I started this many times, so it might have been one of the other attempts. All right, so there is that, I'm looking at the dark places that are on that ball, ignoring the places where I already put Naples yellow because I'm going to leave those alone. But this is the mix that I want to start with. It's not dark, and I'm going to definitely make it darker, but I need a placeholder for right now. So that'll do. I find the darkest shape, and that's my darkest shape right now. So it was Hansa yellow, some quinacridone sienna, and some permanent green made that what I'm going to call a dark gold color. There's a surprising amount of green in this ball, and I think it might be because there's a green ball nearby, and it might be picking up some of that. Now I want to make a lighter color because that is the dark part of the ball I've put in. I want to make something lighter. So I use the same mix that I had, but I'm adding more Hansa yellow to it and some Naples yellow to it. And I'll probably do a test dab of that and see how that compares. Let's see. It could be that the footage of the palette doesn't match up. Okay, there we go. There's a test dab. And I'm putting that next to the dark test dab. And okay, I say that's good. It's, yep, see them together? Definitely that one's darker than the other one. That's what I wanted. So now I can go ahead and put the rest of the yellow on that ball because I've taken care of my darks, I've taken care of my whites. Yep, double checking, happy with the mix. Remember, there is some green in this mix because what I did was I took my original mix that I put in as being my dark shape, and all I did was lighten it up with some Hansa yellow and with some Naples yellow. But at the base of it, it still has green in it because it was from the mix that I did before. So now I'm going over any place that I feel like is mid-toned within that ball with this lighter color. I'm using Arches paper, which is cold press, and I'm using a brush that is 1 inch wide. It's a flat. All right. And notice how I'm going to keep my colors very separate. I'm not going to let my gray run into my yellow at all. All right, not exactly sure what's happening now. It looks like I added a little bit of Naples yellow. Yep, I'm adding some Naples yellow to the mix. Or no, I'm using just Naples yellow directly, right? All on its own. That's going in. But it's much thicker than what I put in as a placeholder. All right, so that's taken care of. Now I need to make some gray. In order to make some gray, I go to my go-to gray, which is Naples yellow, cerulean blue, and permanent rose. But that wasn't dark enough, so I'm going into ultramarine blue and adding some of that. I also, yeah, just some of that. That should do it. I'll probably do a test dab to see. Let's see, I know the footage isn't matching up exactly, but it should be pretty close. So we'll wait for that gray dab to show up. Oh, there it is. Gray on arrival. Yep, that's darker. That's what I wanted. Okay. But it is mixed from what I originally had. Remember, my original mix was cerulean blue, Naples yellow, and permanent rose. All I did was add a little bit of ultramarine blue in order to tip it a little bit more into a darker range. I didn't start from scratch. Everything is being mixed from sort of a base that I had in terms of what I mixed, and now I can adjust it. But I'm not changing my original recipe in any way. All right, now I'm realizing that in my ball, there's the Naples yellow going in. And I'm realizing I don't have as dark as I want on that ball. It's all too mid-toned. So I already know what to do. I'm going into my quinacridone sienna, my Hansa yellow, and this time I'm adding a little bit of green to it, but remember it already had a green in it because I already made that mix, and I'm adding some ultramarine blue to that. So I'm just expanding on the recipe that I did before, and keeping everything in its own little puddle. I'm not going to let the gray puddle and the yellow or gold puddle mix into each other. You know, if your colors start to mix into each other, then you sort of lost your strategic edge. All right, dry everything. I didn't feel like I had enough paint, so there we go again. That's that quinacridone sienna, some permanent green. I've almost none of that left. Need to put some more on the palette, but it wasn't dark enough, and so put some ultramarine blue in as well. That's looking pretty dark, so bring back some quinacridone sienna to lighten things up and also make things a little bit more saturated, a little bit more toward orange, because I don't want to have a gray shape. You know, I want this shape to have color to it. And I felt like something must have happened. I felt, there we go, just making another adjustment. It probably was looking a little too gray, so I added some more of the yellow and some more of that quinacridone sienna to it. Making a test dab, checking to see. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for something that's darker than the original shape I put in as being dark, because now I want to go one step darker with that shape. There we go. But remember, it's mixed from everything that came before. All right, I'm already busy mixing whatever is coming next. Repeating the recipe, Hansa yellow, some quinacridone sienna, some of that permanent green. Let's see what happens next. It's hard to do it. I wanted to do this as I was painting, but I had a dog that was crying at the same time, and that wasn't going to work. All right, so I mixed up some more of that lighter yellow color, much more saturated, which is Hansa yellow. And again, it does have some of that burnt sienna in it, and also has a little bit of green in it as well. Not much. And now I'm going to drive that over what I did before, because that'll make the form look rounder, and it's also going to make it more saturated. That yellow is going to make everything look a little bit more saturated than it was before. But again, the point is the palette. The point is you can see the different colors that I mixed on the palette. I don't make individual puddles as much as I do mix one puddle and then make adjustments in it as I move along. Time to make more gray, which is cerulean blue, permanent rose, and Naples yellow. I must want to be darkening that shape underneath the ornament is my best guess. I can't remember at this point what I did, but that's my best guess. You can see that I like, that's a very warm gray. By warm gray, I mean there's a lot of yellow in it. There's a lot of Naples yellow in it. And I think that's really important because there's a lot of Naples yellow in the globe itself, in that ornament, and in the mixes that I made with the ornament. So, you know, colors go with each other if they're mixed from their own elements. You know, the colors show up again, rather than, like it would be a real mistake right now to just pull out like, a lemon yellow for no reason. It just wouldn't make any sense. All right, so I'm playing a little bit with the shadow there, and I probably put a little bit of yellow underneath the orb as well, because you know the shape doesn't just stop where the ornament hits the table. There'll be a little bit of darkness, but then it'll cast a little bit of a shadow as well. And I'm not sure what happens next. My guess is that I'm still not at the dark value that I want to get to. I'm probably going to mix something even darker, because in order to achieve shiny, I need a really big difference between my darkest dark and my lightest light, and I don't know that I have that yet on the Christmas ornament. But I probably, the reason this isn't matching up, okay, dry everything. The reason this isn't matching up is because somewhere in here I know I had to let the dog out of the room because she was crying so much. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm going to make something dark now. So back to quinacridone sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, some permanent rose. That's too orange. Go back and put some permanent green in. All right, that's a little bit better, but that's not a very generous pile. But I don't have much to do, so let's see what happens. All right, I think I went in and grabbed a little bit of maybe even a tiny spot of indigo just on the one tiny part of the brush, because I need to go a step value darker than where I currently am. Now that is legitimately a brown color that my yellow finally turned into there, but I need that. I need that to be darker. I need that step darker for it to read as being shiny. But remember, it wasn't mixed up on its own. It's been mixed up from the pile that I already had. I'm just adding to the recipe as I go along. This must be gray. Yeah, I'm looking for a gray. So I did my go-to gray, but it wasn't gray enough, so I put some ultramarine blue in it, and it looks like I even add a little bit of Prussian blue to it. So that should make things definitely a step darker. And you can see the color dabs piling up on the left-hand side in the insert where the ornament is near, you know, inside this palette. You can see there have been a lot of test dabs to do. Yeah, see, that's much darker, and that's what I want. Just in a couple spots I want to hit which are darker, and equally as dark as the spot I put in the the ornament. Oh yeah, and then because I'd been painting for a while, I could see that there was a reflection of that red ornament in the yellow ornament, and so I'm going to put that in, which is just, it's cadmium red and a little bit of look like I used permanent rose again, which would make sense, you know, to use something that I've already used in the painting, not to just use a color I haven't used in the painting and just bring it in now. And the other thing that I want to call to mind here just is take a look at the palette. You know, this is, I've been painting for a while. Let's see, this clip is about, oh, it's about 15 minutes long. There's the finished ornament. You know, it's not carefully done by any means, but I'm sure hope that it shows you how to dial into mixing paint and to mix your piles. Consider the value and then keep painting from the piles you already have, keeping them clean and separate from each other. This is the very end of the painting and what your palette should begin to look like. You still have some separate colors. If you end up and you look down at your palette and it's completely gray, then you probably lost the thread. So remember to keep the whites of your paper white, your paints wet, mass for value, mix for color. Please join my YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.